Hi, my name is Jed Shore, and I'm the pastor of a new church start in Hall County, Georgia, New Creation Community Church. I just want to take a couple minutes to let you know what we're going to be covering this fall. Let me start by asking you this question. Who is Jesus of Nazareth? I don't think there's a more important question that has ever been asked in the history of the world. There certainly isn't a more consequential answer that we could give to a question than who is Jesus? Now, C.S. Lewis, he was an author, a philosopher. A lot of people would consider him a Bible scholar, but he was certainly one of the greatest thinkers of the 20th century. He was the first one to say this about Jesus. He had to have either been a liar, a lunatic, or he was who he claimed to be, the Lord. Let me explain to you what I mean by this. The most common and popular view of Jesus is that he's a good teacher. He was kind and he was loving, and most people would say that they believe in Jesus, at least in this way. Even the religion of Islam holds that Jesus was a great prophet sent from God. But here's where the problem begins, and here's where there's a great disconnect. Jesus never claimed to be just a good teacher. One of the clearest things in all of the Bible is not only did Jesus claim to be God, in which he said, "I am the Father are one. If you've seen me, you've seen the Father." But his disciples, after spending a lot of time with Jesus, spent the rest of their lives teaching and writing that Jesus was in fact God. The Apostle Paul said this about Jesus: "In him the whole fullness of the deity dwelt bodily." The author of Hebrews said, "He is the radiance of the glory of God, the exact imprint of his nature. He upholds the universe by the word of his power." What great teacher or prophet can uphold the universe by the word of his power? And hundreds of years before Jesus was even born, it was predicted that the Messiah would be God. 600 years before Jesus was born, the prophet Isaiah said this about the coming Messiah: that he would be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, the Everlasting Father. So if what most people believe about Jesus is that he was just a good teacher, that would make Jesus a liar and his followers the most deceived of all people who've ever lived, because Jesus never claimed to just be a good teacher. The other option would be that Jesus was a lunatic. He thought himself to be something that he was not. And throughout history, there have been many people who have thought they were the Messiah, and they had a great following. I think of people like David Koresh and the tragedy that followed him. But with each of these men, when they died, their run ended. Nobody continues to follow them. Most people don't even remember their names, much less continue to follow them. But with Jesus of Nazareth, the story was quite different. Within the first few months of Jesus' death and resurrection, there was a literal explosion of people who believed in Jesus. And I don't mean believed in Jesus as a good teacher. I mean believed in Jesus as the Son of God. They believed in Jesus as their Lord. Their lives were completely changed, and they began to live with a hope that goes beyond this physical world to a hope of eternity and purpose. And they had a joy that remained in spite of the difficult things that this world handed them. And this explosion of believers did not end there, but it continued and spread throughout the entire world for the next 2,000 years. But why was there such a huge difference between Jesus and all these other men who claimed to be the Messiah, and then died and their memories just became completely obliterated? The answer to that question is the most important event in the history of the world, bar none: the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead. And this is the claim of Jesus' disciples, this is the claim of the Bible, and this is the claim of Jesus himself before he even died. So if you're one to believe that Jesus of Nazareth was just a good teacher, that's not actually a logical conclusion, because Jesus claimed to be God. The only logical conclusion is that Jesus was either a liar, a lunatic, or he was who he said he was, the Lord. This fall at New Creation Community Church, we're going to take a first-hand look at the testimony of a man named John. Verse by verse, chapter by chapter, we're going to follow the testimony of somebody who was there right beside Jesus for his entire ministry. He was there when Jesus was at his highest point of popularity. He was there when Jesus was crucified and died. He was also there to see Jesus after he rose from the dead. He was even there up to 50 years after Jesus rose from the dead and ascended into heaven. He was there to witness all of the other disciples' martyrdom. He even saw the martyrdom of his own brother. Yet, this entire time, John still testified that Jesus was the Son of God and that there was salvation in no one else. I want to humbly invite you to join us this fall as we take an in-depth look into the life, claims, and impact of Jesus of Nazareth.